Hello and welcome to Asia Gaming Brief's face-to-face series. Today I'm going to be talking with Daniel Cheng. He is a former executive with Hard Rock International and a seasoned veteran in Asia's gaming industry. We're going to be talking about Thailand and the potential for opening up to IRs in that country. Thank you for joining us today, Daniel. It's great to have you with us again. What we wanted to talk about today is Thailand. And I know in your experience, your past experience as a casino executive in Asia, you have had experience in this market. We're looking at this, of course, because the government has just set up a committee to study the potential liberalisation, yet again, of the sector. So welcome. Do you think this is going to happen this time around?
I hope so. What a wonderful opportunity. It's something we've been looking at for 15 years, at least for me.
Why do you think it might be different this time?
Well, during the time of the former king, King Bhumibol, he's known to be pretty staunch religiously, and during that period, no one expected anything to really happen, even though there was some sliver of hope during the time when Thaksin Shinawatra was prime minister. But then, of course, he was ousted and it all went dead again.
Okay. And why do you think the government might have more of a chance to get it through this time? Because I know that there is still quite a lot of opposition within Thailand from very conservative elements of society.
Sure. So there's been a change of heart since the new king has taken over. He's known to be more liberal. And the fact that this time around, in the last few months, the development we've seen, the movement was coming from the government itself, which is sort of still a little bit of a military government, and with the royal palace. So, and that was the group that had opposed it all the while before with the previous monarch. And the opposition, which was, previously the Thaksin government before, had always been supportive of casino gaming. So now that the other side is the one pushing it, there seemed to be very little resistance this time around.
So what have they done so far? Where are we in the process?
It happened very quickly, right? So it was brought up innocuously from one of the lawmakers in their parliament to suggest that, and very soon after that, the government agreed to set up a panel or subcommittee of parliamentarians to look at it, and that has also since been formed. I think up to half a dozen, 5 panels, if I believe, are studying it right now. So the momentum has just moved all by itself, and we're talking about a matter of less than 3 months, I think. Right? So that all sort of points to something behind the scene, at least what I'm guessing is that's moving it forward. There's some sort of already tacit approval from the higher powers, I think, for this.
How long have you had to put a guess on a likely timetable before we see something concrete? I know there was a certain consultation period given for the committees, but beyond that, what processes need to happen?
There are a lot of studies already done in the past. Usually in Thailand, it begins with academia, and they use academia to sort of endorse it first before the government takes up anything like that. So every study in the last 10, 15, even 20 years has been supportive of gambling to the extent that it could be more wholesome, similar to what Singapore has done. And now that Singapore has been a success story for more than 10 years, I think there's even more support for that, because now it's tried and tested. Before it was just, a vision.
And you started by saying what a wonderful opportunity this would be. Tell us why Thailand is seen as such a good opportunity.
Well, look at Thailand. Even before there were no casinos, right? Thailand would be destination central in terms of tourism for Asia, right? It has always been a great destination hub. You know, the famed Thai friendliness, their culture, their cuisine. When we talk about entertainment and tourism, as far as Asia is concerned, it is always Bangkok and Thailand and Phuket. It differs very much from Singapore in the sense that Singapore is a great international gateway and that has all the advantages attached to it. But Thailand has that X factor, you know, when you talk about entertainment in Thailand, in Bangkok, it's in bold neon letters. It's very different from the rest of the countries. Even Japan, which is a little bit more genteel in terms of the tourism they offer. I mean, we look at Thailand tourism numbers even before the onset of COVID. We're talking about somewhere around 40 million visitors a year. Someone can say, hey, that's the same as Macau. But then for Macau, for the same number, half of them are day trippers that just walk across the border. In Thailand, we're talking about real tourists. And 40 million is twice of Singapore. So if Singapore can have a successful integrated resort of a duopoly with 6-7 billion in gross gaming revenue, we should be able to, you know, almost double it, I think, in terms of the prospects of Thailand.
So it would very quickly be the number 2 market in Asia then after Macau, if it were to.
May even be the number 1 market when it finally comes up, because Macau is not going on the right trajectory right now, as we all know. Right. And Japan, God knows when, you know, is going to start. Osaka is saying they're going to start only in 2029, which is very, very conservative. At this rate, if the Thais are moving at the pace they are moving, COVID permitting, they could even be sooner.
Right. And where do you think the most likely locations for an IR would be in Thailand?
I love it to be in Bangkok, not within the city proper, but in the greater Bangkok metropolitan area. So there's always a possibility of that, and that would be the best prospects commercially for investors and operators. But it's just as likely to be in a more resort region like Phuket or in the northern areas like Chiang Mai. So we don't know yet.
And who do you think might be interested?
Everybody, really. I mean, it's still early days. We don't know. Is it going to be one trial license or multiple license or things like that? But Sands has been there forever. Right, during Sheldon Adelson's time, he has visited it maybe half a dozen times or more. He has met with, you know, former Prime Minister Thaksin and a lot of other top officials. George Tanisevich has done the same thing. Thailand was always more the holy grail than even Japan, I think. So everybody is going to be there. I think even just after the passing of the previous king, companies like Hard Rock, where I was working with them, were already making fresh inquiries, as would have a few other operators as well, right? That would have stopped last 3 years because of COVID, but the interest has never stopped.
Interesting. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Japan a couple of times. That was also going to be the goose that was going to lay the golden eggs, but it didn't turn out that way. What lessons do you think Thailand could draw from that?
If anything, I think Thais are always very practical. So even without the Japanese lesson, I think they would have come up with something that is more investor friendly. So they would have probably emulated Singapore's tiered taxation model that favors the premium, which is what the Philippines have done to good effect. Yeah, I mean, their reasons are very different from why Singapore or Japan or Philippines wanted gaming. So in the first place, we know that Thai are already big gamblers. We already know that, you know, various studies, report, research has said that you have billions of dollars outflow in gambling from Thai overseas, especially at, you know, the gamut of offshore casinos that came up along its borders, right? In Cambodia, in Myanmar. We've read about underground casinos that still exist today in Thailand that are reported to generate $5-6 billion of turnover. I mean, that's like 2 IRs in Singapore. And these are just illegal underground casinos. So the appetite has always been there, and the government's trust has always been, let's legalize it so that we can actually regulate it properly, generate some good fiscal revenue from it, and as well as, remove or control the bad elements that are surrounding it.
Right. Is there anything else you want to add, Daniel? I don't have any more questions on the subject. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity. So if someone's going to spend $10 billion for Osaka, then you can spend 15 to 20 billion using just that same extrapolated argument for Bangkok, because the potential is, I believe, will be so much higher.
Just a note on that one. Obviously, those casino operators that all piled into Japan spent a lot of money on the groundwork there. I mean, millions and millions, and had nothing to show for it. Any chance that they might be once bitten, twice shy?
I think Thailand's a different story. I think they'll all jump right in again. Japan, I believe people were caught by surprise by the snail crawl that has been told, but that's part of it is political. And then also when the policies came out, they were a bit of a dampener. But saying that, Japan's still a great market. Yes, the government is looked to be a little bit greedy in terms of their tax and all that, but it's still going to make money for the operators. MGM, if they win Osaka, they're still going to make money. They're just not going to get it back in 4 or 5 years like Singapore, maybe twice or 3 times that because of all those circumstances. But in Thailand, look, construction cost is going to be much lower. Labor cost is going to be extremely low. It's already an international gateway. Everything you want in an integrated resort is there in Thailand, and then some, more than Singapore, more than Japan. So I see no reason for any operators to hesitate and want to jump in and get a slice. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. Please tune in every Friday for Asia Gaming Briefs interviews with thought leaders in the gaming industry.